Hello and welcome to the Foxhole cast, an All for the Game reread podcast. I'm Una.
And I'm Nate.
And today we'll be covering Chapter 5 of the Foxhole Court, in which Neil gets a checkup and meets the upperclassmen. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to my old college buddy Lizzie, who I hadn't talked to in years and years, but who found this podcast out in the wild and sleuthed out that I'm the one who makes it and messaged me out of the blue about it.
That's so good, and also explains the car that was following us. No, that's so cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, Lizzie. Shout out to you. Also, thank you to everyone for your patience this summer. Our day jobs get really busy in the summer, but we hope to be putting out some more episodes now that it is becoming autumn.
Yeah.
Any initial thoughts on Chapter 5?
I think we discussed this a little bit, but just the fact it seems so short, especially in comparison to Chapter 4 that we had to split into two parts.
Right.
It's much more just things happen, but it feels much more just what is that cat doing? Just Neil getting settled in.
She might be under that blanket.
I think she is.
Anyway, I posted on Tumblr to ask for people to send in their Chapter 5 thoughts, and we did get a few that I want to touch on. Tumblr user Chaotic Gender Fluid asked, the fact that Neil only didn't punch Kevin because it wasn't who he portrayed Neil to be is so funny. Agree.
That is true. He's I'm doing this for the fucking bit, but I would kill you if I had the chance.
If I had the choice, yeah. They also ask, do you think Neil ever goes swimming considering his scars? Because the answer is probably no, which begs the question of whether Mary ever taught him. I think yes.
Yeah, I think just in case they needed to escape somewhere, and they were in hotels all the time, they probably could have had a chance to be in a hotel pool with nobody around.
Yeah.
And they make swim shirts. You can wear a swim shirt.
Yeah, swim shirt.
My mom always made us wear swim shirts growing up.
Yeah, I think that probably he doesn't go swimming for funsies or anything, but he must know how, because I feel like that would be a big not safe thing if he wasn't able to swim. I feel like Mary would have had the common sense to teach him how to swim.
Yeah.
Just in case. Tumblr user Your Good Friend JH asked, I just finished rereading TFC, and bizarrely, I only have one annotation to offer for Chapter 5. It's about when Neil goes after Kevin, and this person says, it's the first time I believe that Neil totally drops his filter. Surely this won't ever backfire in the future. Yeah, we do kind of get our first glimpse at Neil losing his temper, which happens a few times in the series.
Right, and he tries to save it by speaking in French, but now that the twins and everybody know that he knows French, which is probably more than he wanted to reveal.
Right. We can talk more about that when we get to it. Oh, this person also included a screenshot of the presidential alert. The girls are fighting! Shout out to Tumblr user Corvid Queen III, who wrote a huge ass summary with notes. We are not going to be able to get to all of those, but thank you so much for putting in the time to write this out for us. Mm-hmm. Tumblr user Show Me Your Foxhole replied to my post and said that we as the readers at last get our most important character clue for Neil. It's that he can start fights, but is utter shit at ending them.
Literally, hang on, I have an annotation. Love a guy who picks fights he can't win.
Yes, love that in a character. I think with that, we should just get into it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your thoughts, comments, opinions about Chapter 5.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. We love it.
Where we left off in Chapter 4, Wymack had just given Neil his Yakuza 101 lesson. So Chapter 5 is 2 weeks later, it's move-in day, and Neil is relieved because once the team is here, the rest of the team, Kevin will have a whole team to focus on instead of just him. Kevin is doing an alright job keeping the secret of the Ravens district change from Andrew, but he's taking his stress out on Neil.
Where have we seen that?
It says, Neil was much better at instigating fights than winning them, but it'd be worth losing if he could just put a fist through Kevin's face once. Starting a fight was too out of character for who he portrayed Neil to be, though. Which I think is so funny because literally just like a few pages later in this very same chapter, he drops that. He's actively thinking like, I can't fight Kevin. That's not who I am. Like, I'm trying to like lay low. And then like immediately later, he'll like totally drop that.
That's like when you're going out with your friend and they're like, don't let me have sex with my ex. Don't even let me text my ex. Don't let me even think about my ex. And then like halfway into the night, they're like, I'm going to go see my ex.
Yeah, except with Neil, it's his temper.
Yeah.
And he's talking to himself. He's like, don't do it, man. At the court, Neil flips through the university's course catalog. Side note, Sakovich writes catalog with a UE on the end, which is more common in British English. American English usually spells catalog without the UE on the end.
Sometimes I spell it that way for fun. She might just like...
To be British?
Yeah, I'm just like, it sounds a little fancier, like saying check, CHEQUE.
Oh, yeah, that is like the British spelling.
I don't know, I feel like I've seen it like for a computer catalog, they'll say catalog with just a G, and then for other catalogs, it might be GUE. I don't know why.
It's the same thing with dialogue, I think. The word dialogue also, like, a dialogue between people has like a UE on the end, or like something else, like a dialogue box on a computer is without the UE.
I never noticed that. I think you're right.
The other way around. I always have to look it up. But I'm one for American spellings because American spellings usually have fewer letters, and I think that that's just more efficient. Neil knows that he'll have to leave before the semester is up, so it really doesn't matter what he studies, but he thinks that Spanish would be a useful choice, which I love because I speak Spanish.
A mí también.
The narration describes how he keeps thinking he has a schedule figured out, but then he has to backtrack and make changes because XE practice and tutoring takes up so much time. And this just like, every time I get to this scene in the books, it flashes me back to like staring at the course catalog. Like, thank God we didn't have to go through a physical course catalog. We had it online, but like, just like trying to line up all of your classes, and like, I didn't even have sports or like that many extracurriculars to figure out. Like, but like, it was such a hassle every single semester trying to figure out like, okay, this is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is my Tuesday, Thursdays. Like
I remember it was like a calendar with like the boxes, and so you could see which boxes like where.
Yeah, at least that made it easy. Like Neil just is doing this with like pencil and paper, which I can't imagine.
I would immediately schedule myself like 5 overlapping classes and not realize it till the first day.
Abby enters and tells Neil they could do his physical now, but he's very reluctant. Eventually, he goes into her office for the checkup, and everything's going fine until she asks him to take off his shirt so she can check for track marks.
So I have some quibbles with this.
Okay.
Earlier in the scene, we kind of go through the rest of the check in like very quick. He's like, she did this, and this. And one of the things he said is she took 2 vials of blood from his left arm.
Oh my God, you're right!
Right? And like literally, when I have donated blood in the past, they literally like look at your arms to see if you have track marks, because you can't donate blood if you've done drugs, because it's not fair to people who get blood that doesn't have drugs in it.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, track marks are like marks that can appear along your veins as a result of drug use, usually heroin use. That is so funny. I never noticed that. She would have had to look at his veins to take his blood.
Right? I noticed it at first because it just popped out to me that she stuck the vials of blood in a drawer. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how it works, but I don't know if you can just put it in a drawer. So I was thinking about that more.
Oh, you're right. Don't you have to, like, refrigerate blood?
I feel like, yeah. Like, maybe. But, and also the fact that she's like, it has to happen today because there's a blood test that needs to be done. I'm like, and the blood work's going to be done by tomorrow? You can't do that. I was really, with all my, like, 2 pages of medical knowledge that I've collected over 15 years, I was like, I think this is fishy.
Yeah. I hadn't considered that at all, but I think you're right. That is funny that she literally had to take his blood and ostensibly see his veins, right, where he would have been taking heroin, and then she's still like, you have to take off your whole entire shirt.
Right. She's like, no questions. You do have to take off the shirt. Don't tell anybody that I told you this, but you do have to take off the shirt.
I think that is so characteristic of the series, of like, just these weird little details that like don't make sense or don't like follow. Like, it's kind of just like a little mini plot hole, but like, we want Neil to take off his shirt. Like,
right.
We want to figure out what's up with his scars. We want the whole description of all of his injuries, you know? And that totally eclipses any little plot hole.
Right. Like, I'm not saying this like, oh, she should have not had to take off his shirt. I'm like, they should have skipped the blood test. I want to see that boy with his shirt on.
Yeah. God, that's funny. I had never considered that. Neil refuses to take off his shirt, and they sit in silence for 5 minutes before she asks him why he won't undress. It says, Neil looked for a delicate way to say it. The best he managed was, I'm not okay. Real delicate, Neil.
Yeah.
This is like, in one episode you pointed out that Neil has these moments where he just, like, is unable to act normal. Like, he tries his best to, like, respond in ways that would be, like, expected of him, but then he has these, like, little moments where he just, like, kind of shuts down and can't summon that, you know, ability. And I think that this is one of them, when he's just, like, he has absolutely no idea what to say to her, and he's just like, I'm not okay, which doesn't make, like, a lot of sense.
Right. But but it's like, also, it's very honest. Like, it's as honestly as he can express his emotions, maybe.
Yeah, like, he is trying so hard to, like, not give anything away, but he has to give her something, and, like, he gets kind of caught in this, like, middle ground of, like, this very vague answer, but also very general, like...
I feel like he's not actually very good at, like, lying when it comes to things like this. Like, he's living a lie. But, like, another thing I think of is, like, when he's in the scene with Betsy, the therapist, and she wants him to tell her stuff, he's just completely silent, which is, like, obviously shows there's a problem. He could have made some shit up, and she wouldn't have been all suspicious.
Right.
But he's just like, I don't know how to do that. I'm just going to be quiet.
Yeah. I can't wait to get to that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of thoughts. I wonder if it's just, like, he does not have, like, the energy to like, make up a lie. Because there are some moments where he, like, I'm thinking about, I think this is in, like, the second book, at the end of the second book, when Rico is like, you have to come to the nest for winter break, and everyone is expecting him to go to New York with Matt, and he has to fake a phone call. He fakes that he's on the phone with his uncle and that he's being, like, called back to Arizona for family stuff, and he's, like, having this one-sided conversation with his phone, making up this, like, family drama, and then Matt walks in and, like, overhears it and is like, oh man, you have to go home, like, if your uncle's there, blah blah blah. And Neil is, like, acting his fucking, like, ass off, and he does like an amazing job of it. I forget where I was going with this, but, like, that would be, like, an example of Neil kind of, like, pulling it together to, like, maintain this character, and he's really successful in that moment.
Yeah, you're so right.
But he doesn't have the, like, capacity to do that all the time.
Yeah, especially when it's things that are more, like, that was a pretty emotional moment, but he had a little more time to plan, as opposed to, like...
Yeah. Abby assures Neil that she's probably seen much worse working for the Foxes, and that she won't tell Wymack anything about him. Neil makes her promise not to ask about them, meaning his scars. He takes off his shirt, and it's clear Abby wasn't prepared for this, because she flinches. The narration details Neil's injuries, which include a scar from a bullet on his collarbone, another on his shoulder from when he jumped out of a moving car, and various old knife wounds he got from his father's people while on the run. But the worst one is an outline of a hot iron on his right shoulder, which he got from his dad after the police visited their house. It says, Neil's job was to stay quiet and still until they left again. Neil guessed he'd twitched a little too much, because as soon as they were gone, his father ripped the iron from his mother's hands and smacked Neil with it. Neil still remembered how his skin looked as it peeled off with the metal, which is terrible.
Yeah.
It's such a visceral, like, vivid little memory that he has.
Yeah, it's such a good detail to, like, focus on and describe. Like, of course it hurt. Of course, like, it looked gross, but it's, like, that one specific detail is like, oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah, and he's, like, the memory that he has is not completely clear because it happened when he was so young that he can't completely remember, like, why he got in trouble, but he thinks it was probably because the police were there, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of get this, like, little glimpse into what his life was like. Like, based on this one little memory that he tells us about, we can extrapolate what the rest of his childhood was like. Even though we don't get a ton of other details like this throughout the series, like, we are able to kind of, like,
Right.
focus in on this and assume that what the rest of his childhood would have been like.
Right.
Which is a clever narrative device.
Yes.
Neil just asks Abby, do I have track marks? After she lets him put his shirt back on, she fills out the rest of her forms in silence. As soon as she tells him they're done, Neil bolts from the room. He looks over his catalog some more and anxiously checks whether his shirt is covering all his scars. He stands up to go to the inner court, but then Matt walks in. Matt is about 6'6", making him the tallest person on the team, and has black hair gelled up into spikes.
Hell yeah.
I love when fan artists draw Matt with, like, very punk spikes. Like, not just, you know, like, the casual, like, the hair is sticking up, but, like, legitimate, like, spikes. Like, coming off of his head. I love when people draw him, like, super, like, I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, love that for Matt.
Do people really gel their hair into spikes anymore? I feel like it's fallen out of fashion.
Yeah, probably not a lot of people are putting in the work, but for special occasions, you break out the old hair gel.
The old spikes.
When I was out with my friend the other night, we saw someone with a legitimate, like, mohawk that was gelled up into spikes. So, and it was, like, dyed pink. It was fucking awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, a rare sighting. Matt also has faded but obvious track marks on both his arms. Matt introduces himself, and Wymack comes out of his office to throw Matt a key, which hits him in the face. They have some friendly banter, and Matt expresses sympathy to Neil for having to put up with the monsters, meaning Andrew's lot. Can I just say, I absolutely love Matt Boyd. Absolutely my favorite, like, side character. Best guy ever. Like, he's great. He's so great. I love Matt so much in every way. And I love when he walks in and just starts kind of, like, chatting with Neil and Wymack and is like, oh man, like, you had to put up with Coach? Oh, you had to put up with Andrew's lot? Like, he's just so casual and normal, and it's like whiplash after hanging out with Andrew and the monsters for, like, the past 2 chapters or whatever. You just get whiplash of, like, oh, this is a normal human being.
You're so right. It's like we've been absorbed into their twisted little world, and it's like, oh no, that's weird, actually.
Yeah. And Matt just comes in, and he's like, hey, how's it going?
I could just envision, like, just Neil standing there, like a mannequin, just, like, staring at Matt while Matt is just, like, acting like a normal human being, very animated. And I could just envision it.
Yeah,
like,
Matt is just trying to be, like, friendly to him, and Neil is just like, whoa, what's going on? I haven't encountered a regular human in a while.
Neil is like when a cat, like, arches its back and all its hair is poking up.
Yes. Wymack tells Matt to take Neil to Fox Tower to move in, and Matt is surprised at how Neil's duffel bag can fit everything he owns. Wymack tells Matt to take Neil shopping later and expense it to the team's card, to which Neil replies, I have money. Wymack says, good for you. I thought you two were leaving. Just love that. On the drive to Fox Tower, Matt tells Neil that they're not all bad like the monsters, but Neil just says, they're interesting. Matt promises to kick Kevin's ass if they give him any trouble. Neil says he can handle them himself, but Matt offers some ominous foreshadowing by saying, I thought I could handle them too. Andrew made it pretty clear he wasn't going to be handled by anyone. You change your mind, you know where to find me. My offer's good through graduation. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you know Neil for like 5 seconds and you're already like, hey, I'll kick Kevin's ass for you. Do you want me to kick Kevin's ass? I'll kick Kevin's ass.
Please ask me to kick Kevin's ass.
Please, I want to kick Kevin's ass.
That's so true. He, like, barely knows Neil. He's just like, Coach Wymack said you were cool. You seem cool.
Yeah. I think that Matt is probably, like, doing everything he can to make sure that Neil does not join Andrew's, like, group.
You're so right.
Because then he's, like, lost to them. And, like, Matt wants to, you know, make the team cohesive, and he wants Neil to be on, you know, the upperclassmen side of things that are, like... Yeah, because Andrew's crew doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
About Exy as much as... I mean, Kevin does, but that's it. Like, the other people are just kind of there. Yeah, so I think Matt is, like, hoping that Andrew has not already gotten to Neil. Also, Matt has prior experience of, like, dealing with Andrew and the way that Andrew, like, took Matt to Columbia and made him relapse and stuff, and we're going to learn all about that later. So I'm sure that, like, Matt is immediately like, I'm already enemies with Andrew's lot, so if you are enemies with Andrew's lot, like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Like, also, they're going to be roommates, so it's only smart to be friendly.
True.
They arrive at the athlete's dorm, Fox Tower, and unload everything from Matt's truck. It's a nightmare getting everything up to the 3rd floor, but Neil keeps his duffel bag on him the whole time because he's too paranoid to leave it anywhere. Their dorm room has a little kitchen space, a living room with 3 desks, and a bedroom with bunk beds. Neil hasn't slept in a real bed since Seattle, where his mom got hurt, and he's going to have to buy sheets? I just think that's such a wild detail that, like, this entire time he has not slept in a bed.
I really did not consider that at all. You're right.
Because he's basically been homeless since his mom died. He's been sleeping on a WiMAX couch. Wild.
Yeah, and he was probably sleeping on, like, the locker room couch of the high school he went to.
Right. Neil also mentions that he and his mother always used to sleep in the same bed back to back with guns under their pillows, which is also wild.
Yeah.
Matt leaves to pick Dan and Renee up from the airport, and Neil frets about how to store his stuff because nothing here has a lock on it except the front door. Neil ends up stuffing his duffel bag into the bottom drawer of a dresser and triple checks the dorm room's lock on his way out to the store. Neil runs into Nikki in the hallway and then leaves to go to the store.
Here's one thing that I was considering this, because the part in this, like, almost in this whole book that makes me the most annoyed is when Andrew breaks in and goes through Neil's stuff just because he can.
Yeah.
Like, what's his fucking problem? But the reason that Neil has for not bringing his duffel with him to the store is that it'll be too much to carry everything that he needs. I'm like, Neil, you gotta take multiple trips. First go and get your safe and put your shit in it, and then go back to the store.
That would have been smart.
Right? It's like you were saying to me the other day. It's like, Neil, you gotta do some lateral thinking.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't considered the fact that he could have just made a couple trips and dodged this whole scene.
Right?
But we need the scene of Andrew breaking into his shit and putting everything back the way it was.
Except for when we find out, I think we've discussed this before, but since we find out later that Andrew has a special memory, do we think that he deliberately did not put Neil's things back the way exactly what it was so that Neil would know he'd broken in? Or did he just, like, not notice that detail?
This is actually something that Sakovich has talked about, I'm
shit.
pretty sure, and I would not be able to find the post where she does this because she did it in, like, the replies of someone else's post. But someone, actually, we're gonna get to it.
Okay.
When we talk about, we haven't even gotten to that part yet. But yeah, no, he totally could have just had, like, he could have just done multiple trips or whatever. But, like, I think that they have to, like, get to practice after this. I think he had, like, limited time.
That does make sense.
But yeah, you'd think that maybe he would have just, like, you know, focused on the most important stuff.
Right. It's not, it just gets me that this whole time his emphasized so much, like, he keeps his bag even for walking between the floors, and then suddenly when it's time to go to a whole nother place, he's like, okay, I guess I'll have to. It seems like...
Yeah, this is another one of those little plot holes where it's like, yeah, I think technically he could have, like, figured out a way around this, but we did need the scene where Andrew breaks into his stuff.
Yeah. Work around, just make it like an Ocean's 11 thing where it's actually really hard for Andrew to break in, but he still breaks in, and there's just a brief, like, heist sequence that Neil doesn't know about.
We just cut away to Andrew's POV of heisting Neil's duffel bag. Yeah. At the store, Neil looks for a lock, but can't find one that he'd be able to install on anything in his room, so he grabs a small fireproof safe. On his way back into Fox Tower, he sees Matt's truck is back, and he tries to check the heat of the hood to determine how long it's been back, but he can't tell if it's the heat from the sun or the heat from the engine. From the girls' open dorm room door, Neil can hear voices, but he heads straight to his own room to get his duffel. He opens it and freezes. He can tell someone's been through his stuff because he always folds the tags on his shirts in a certain way, and now it's messed up. So Sakovich mentioned something about this, and I remember reading this, but I would not be able to cite this because I she put it in the replies of someone else's post. If someone has screenshots of this, send it to us. But basically this post was about, like, if Andrew has a photographic memory, which we learn about later, why couldn't he have put Neil's shirts back exactly? Like, he would have... Basically, Andrew is such a super genius, he should have noticed that the tags were folded a certain way, and he would have been able to put them back exactly right. And in the reply, Sakovich was like, yeah, he did it on purpose. You're right. Like, he saw how it was, and he wanted to see basically how Neil reacted. If I'm remembering this post right, Sakovich was like, yeah, Andrew wanted to see if Neil would notice and what he would do once he found out that someone had been through his stuff.
I feel like I also remember either reading this or you telling me about it. Really does add to Andrew's, like, trickster air.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not, I don't only want to know what you're hiding. I want to know how you feel now that I know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Neil yanks his clothes out of his duffel bag and recovers his binder, which looks like a stalker's journal. There are plastic sheet protectors full of newspaper clippings and photos of Kevin and Rico. Where did he print these out? At the fucking, like, public library? Like, don't you need a library card to use the computers?
You do not. You can hook up to it, like, with your phone, or I assume there's a way to do it without your phone, as long as you pay them money. But I also like to imagine that he would, like, break into the faculty lounge of the schools that he was in.
Oh, that would make sense, yeah. Yeah, because I don't think he would have his own device to hook up to a printer.
Right, because he gets a phone later.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's 2006. Phones can't print things.
You're so right. Damn. I don't even know what they were doing in 2006. You probably had to go to the fucking library and ask for, like, the printer key, and she'd go out to, like, turn the wheel to turn on the printer.
When they drive up to Fox Tower earlier in this chapter, it says that they have a computer lab in the building, and I'm like, wow, that was, like, a thing.
You're so right. Because you had to go to where the computers were. It was like their little house.
It's so funny. Technically, our dorm in college also had a computer lab that was just, like, a room with, like, 4 computers in it.
I remember one time, like, early in the semester, I was, like, writing a paper, and I was, like, freaking out, as I always did when I wrote papers. And I, like, went into the computer lab in my dorm. I, like, pulled all the computer chairs around me in a circle, and I just started, like, doing my essay while crying, and somebody just, like, walked in, saw me, and walked back out.
What? Was this when we were roommates?
No, it was first year.
Oh my god.
And my professor made our papers due at, like, 8 a.m. for some reason. He was like, I'll give you an extra night, so let's do it 8 a.m. on the next day. And I'm like, why have you done this to me?
Terrible news for procrastinators.
Literally, because literally every time, like, no matter what, I would end up writing the majority of the paper that night while feeling like the devil had taken control of my body.
That's wild.
So yeah, that's my computer lab experience.
That's so funny. I never had any experience like that. My computer lab experience from college is that there was a specific printer in the art building that you could print in color for free. And if you were, like, currently enrolled in an art class, then your, little ID card could get you into that computer lab. So some semesters I could go in there and, like, print posters for, my clubs that I was in. But during the semesters where I was not an art student, I would just have to hang around outside the door and, like, pretend I was doing something else, or, like, I would duck into the next classroom and someone would just be, like, working on their sculpture in there, and I'd be like, hey, I forgot my ID card. Can you scan me into the computer lab? And, like, of course they would. Why wouldn't they?
That's so funny.
So I got so much free color printing out of that. Like,
your social engineering of the...
Yeah, infinite color printing hack at our college. Anyway, between his plastic protectors of his newspaper clippings are certificates for money that he can cash out when he needs them. There's instructions on where he and his mom hid more money while on the run, and there are stacks of bills. There are also emergency contacts written in code, but only one of the contacts lives in the United States, and it's Neil's mom's brother, Stuart, who we meet later.
It is Stuart? I thought it was, like, another random person, and then Stuart's was another thing. That would make sense if it's Stuart, though.
Oh, I think it is a little ambiguous about who the contact is. I assumed it was Stuart because he's the only one who gets named. And why would they write in the narration, like, there's only one contact in the US. Stuart's in UK, though, or whatever.
That's true.
I figured that Stuart is the US contact.
I don't know, but listeners, do you think Stuart lives in the U.S. or is he abroad doing Stuart things?
I forget what exactly it says. We can look at the actual wording if we want.
Yeah, hang on. Let's.
Yeah, do you want to open that up?
Oh, I think it was saying only one of them lived in the United States because the list of emergency numbers had been given to her by her British brother. So it's saying most of these are British because they were given to her by a British person. Okay. So it's not necessarily that Stuart is the only U.S. one. He's the one who gave her the list.
Okay, and one of them happens to be in the U.S. But we never learn about who this U.S. contact is.
You're right, yeah.
So I think it would make more narrative sense if it was Stuart.
Yeah, and he does end up taking down Neil's dad.
Yeah, he comes in the third book. So it could go either way, but I think narratively it makes sense if Stuart is the U.S. contact who gave them the list of contacts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was like, he gave them the contacts and he lives in the U.S. And I thought the amusing thought that he's like, he wants her to go back home. So he's like, see how many of these emergency contacts are in England? You could go back.
You've got so much family in the UK, Mary. Okay, so Neil hopes that he never has to call Stuart because, quote, there was no point in running away from a murderous family if he just ran into the arms of another one, which I can respect.
Yeah.
Eventually, Stuart ends up being chill, though.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a weird, not really foreshadowing. Like, it explains why Neil hasn't yet gone to Stuart, but, like, at least he'd be safe from his dad.
Right?
Like,
because Stuart does end up saving him.
Yeah, and in the Sunshine Court, Stuart's, like, checking in on with Neil about, like, FBI shit.
I thought it was, like, because, like, at first I was like, he seems like he's, like, checking in on Neil, but it's more, like, I got the vibe that it was more, like, Neil was on thin ice with this guy, but I think you're right. Like, they just, eventually it's just like, yeah, you're my sister's kid. Like, I mean, I guess Neil's not wrong that Stuart is part of a murderous crime family.
But he seems more chill than Nathan Wisniewski.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like a step up in murderous crime families as they go.
Yeah, but I think they're still like, aren't they still working with like the Moriyamas?
Are the Hatfords?
Yeah, like doesn't Stuart have to cut a deal? That's like third book shit.
Okay.
We do not need to get into that. Anyway, in Neil's binder, there's also a forged optometrist's note with his eye measurements so he can buy brown colored contacts. Do you need to know the measurements of your eyes to buy colored contacts?
I think you might, because for some contacts, like, you do need that. What I want to know is why did it need to be forged when they could just go to the actual optometrist and get those measurements? Because the optometrist wouldn't be like, what are you going to do with these eye measurements?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, wouldn't you need to go to a real optometrist to get the correct measurements anyway? Or is this like a back alley, Minority Report eye doctor?
But yeah, I think you do, because it like needs to fit to the curvature of your eye. I don't know if it's for all of them or just for like, there's like hard contacts and soft contacts. I don't even know. I wish I knew more. One time I was going to get contacts and it took literally, I went to the doctor's office to put them in. It took literally like a half an hour for me to figure out how to put them in while sobbing. And my mom was like, you're going to love them.
And then you never wore contacts?
I wore them for like a few months and then I was like, I can't do this shit.
Oh my God, that's funny. Well, sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was just mad. I was like, how did I fucking do this?
God, that's funny. Neil checks the money in his binder and finds that nothing is missing. He's got about $250,000. It says the smart thing to do was pretend to not notice anything amiss and wait for the thief to come to him. That was what his mother would do. Unfortunately, Neil had inherited his father's temper and he'd finally had enough. I love that line, that he's thinking like, my mom taught me how to deal with this. Like, when we were on the run, my mom taught me all of these important lessons on how to survive, but god damn it! And he just like fucking loses it. And I love that for him, that he just cannot hold on to his anger, even though logically he knows that like he should not let it get the better of him.
Right, like he's trying to talk himself out of it, but he's already like, no, I'm fucking doing it. I'm fucking doing it.
Yeah, love when Neil gets angry.
Mm-hmm.
Neil figures that Matt wouldn't have had time to go through his stuff, so that leaves one obvious suspect. He pulls some lockpicks out of his binder before locking it in his new safe, and then he goes to Andrew's door and gets to work picking the lock. As soon as he shoves the door open, Andrew's lot go still and stare at him. Andrew is sitting on a desk by the window smoking, but when he sees Neil, he flicks the cigarette out the window and says, "Try again, Neil, you're in the wrong room." In German, Aaron says to Nikki, "We locked that." And Nikki confirms in German before switching to English to ask Neil if he's met Dan and Renee yet. Neil decides he'll keep his German a secret until the last possible moment, but he switches to French to tell Kevin, "Stay out of my things. The next time one of you goes where you don't belong, I swear I'll make you regret it." Everyone is shocked by this, and Andrew says, "Wow, another one of Neil's many talents. How many can one man have?"
I like the description. What is it? How he looks, his expression changes to "what a fool might mistake for delight."
Yes.
I like that. I'm like, yes, he's pissed off.
I love that. Yeah. I think it's like delight, but it's in the Andrew way of like, he's interested.
Okay.
He's like, oh, this just got interesting.
So like horny delight.
Yeah. The specific brand of Andrew delight. Just the, like, how many talents can one man have? Wouldn't you like to know, Andrew? Neil ignores him and asks Kevin if he understands. Kevin replies in French to say he doesn't care. And just now that we know, like, from the Sunshine Court, that Kevin is actually speaking French with a Marseille accent this whole time, and that there's, like, a element of twanginess to this French that is, like, not standard French or whatever, it completely changes all of these scenes for me. That it's, like, Neil is just, like, talking to him in, like, what would be considered, like, a standard French accent, probably, and then Kevin is just replying with like the equivalent of like I don't even know if it's like the equivalent, but just like a deep South accent.
I do not care.
Yeah, it just puts into perspective, and I imagine Neil is just like, oh, okay. But of course, we don't get that in this book, because this is still the book where everyone understands everything in all of the languages that they speak.
Yes, yes.
And there's no accents or anything like that. Neil warns Kevin to prepare for the fact that Andrew's going to find out about the Ravens' district change tonight. Neil says, "Put a leash on your pet monster, or I will."
And then he does.
Kevin calls Neil a frightened child, and Neil calls Kevin a cripple and a deadweight has-been. Kevin surges out of his chair, and Neil backs out of the room and slams the door closed. Which is so funny to me every time, that he's just like, he stomps in, and he, like, yells at Kevin in French, and he's like, "Put a leash on your pet monster, I will." And then he calls Kevin some names, and Kevin's like, "What did you say?" Like, stands up and like surges forward, and he was like, "Gotta go!" And he just like scrambles out of the room and slams the door. Like, it's so cartoonish that he just like shows up to like start a fight, and then immediately is like, bye.
You're so right.
Just like immediately like, all right, peace. And like, what did he expect was gonna happen? Like, he slams the door in Kevin's face, and then I guess he's just trying to make it back to his room to like lock the door, but like that won't stop Andrew ultimately. Right. So like, what is his plan here?
I just like that he slams the door to like slow Kevin down for 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's just so like, it's so childish in the way of like, "Mom, my brother is calling me names."
Literally.
And then like, you're trying to go after him, and he slams the door in your face, and it's like, this is not gonna hold me.
It's so funny.
It's so childish.
You really can start fights and not finish
them. Incredible work from our boy Neil here.
Yes, yes.
Kevin yanks open the door and slams Neil against the wall of the hallway with his hands around his neck. The noise of the fight draws everyone out of their rooms, and Matt does not fucking hesitate to wrap an arm around Kevin's throat to pull him off. This is like Matt is just immediately ride or die, because he hates Kevin so fucking much that he's immediately like, I don't care what happened, I don't care who started it, Kevin, like, I'm coming for you. Like,
that's so true. He has no idea what's going on. He's like, okay, we need somebody to fight Kevin. Okay.
I'm so there. Fucking love Matt. Kevin and Matt scuffle a little before Andrew steps between them and Matt backs off. Dan and Renee emerge from their room. Dan tries to scold them for fighting on their first day back, but Andrew dismisses this and greets Renee instead. Dan demands an explanation from Andrew, but he points out that Neil brought the fight to their room. Dan asks Neil what the problem is, but Neil says there isn't one. Also funny, because he, like, clearly there was just... Kevin was choking you! Kevin had his hands around your neck, like... That's not just... Oh, anyway.
Just imagining, like, Kevin releases Neil's neck and like, Neil in a deadpan way, he's just like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. There's no problem here.
Yeah.
God, that's funny.
Just how we say hello in French.
Yes, exactly. Andrew says, we're getting along splendidly. Neil even agreed to ride to the stadium with us. Dan is skeptical, but Neil agrees, figuring he has, quote, damage control to do. Which I assume means that he needs to, like, figure out what they know about what's in his binder. Like, he needs to figure out who exactly was in his stuff and, like, what the deal is with that. It's a little unclear what his damage control is.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. What if he was like, I need to apologize for starting a fight and try to get off on the right foot with these people?
Andrew gives Neil his 2-fingered salute and says, see you soon. Don't run off, okay? Wouldn't dream of it, Neil lied. Love that.
Yes.
That he's like, don't run off, okay? Like, symbolically.
Right.
The metaphors.
What a chapter.
The foreshadowing of, like, don't run away. But, like, right now it's, like, antagonistic. Of, like, don't run off. And Neil lied, wouldn't dream of it. But, like, that becomes unironic later.
Yes. And, like, later he stays somewhere specifically to, like, keep Andrew safe. Yeah. But he, like, seems like he's, like, runs away to the Raven's Nest, but he's like, really, I'm not. Anyway, yeah, no, you're so right that at first it's like, don't run off. Okay, I won't. And then after, like, please don't run off. And it's like, I need to run off to keep you safe. And it's still the same.
Oh my god. Don't run off, okay? Wouldn't dream of it. Ah! The chapter ends with the monsters retreating back into their room, but not before Kevin sends Neil a chilly look and slams the door.
A really funny reaction to just having the door slammed on you is to slam it back.
Yeah. He's like, I get the last slam in this argument.
Neil just picks the lock, opens the door, slams it again.
Yeah. What a chapter.
What a chapter.
We've got the upperclassmen.
Yeah.
The upperclassmen are here. Matt is here. I've been waiting for Matt to show up forever. Defo my favorite, like, upperclassman character, favorite side character. I love his friendship with Neil a lot.
Yes.
Just, like, we're kind of making fun of how ride or die he is right now, that he's just, like, because he wants to fight Kevin. Mm-hmm. But, like, genuinely, Matt cares about Neil's well-being later, and they become very close.
Yeah.
They're, like, best buds later.
He just has that older brother protector. Even though he, like, has no idea what's happening with Neil, he's just like, I'm gonna keep you safe, little buddy.
Yeah, I love the visual of how small Neil is, and Matt being, like, this hulking giant of a man.
We need, like a height chart. We got 5'3" versus 6'6".
I could pull this up right now if we wanted to look
do
at it. Okay, so we have Neil barely coming up to Matt's shoulder, which is incredible. Andrew would be even shorter than that. Yes. Andrew comes up to Matt's, like, bicep. Yeah. I'm like a stealth Matt Neil shipper.
Ooh, okay.
I, like, read some fanfic in high school that kind of rewired my brain, and ever since I've just had, like, a little bit of, like, a Matt Neil thing.
I'm very intrigued. We'll have to discuss.
Yeah, we'll get to some points later on that I think are just excellent. I didn't have anything else. Did you?
No. Let me just see, because I have a note for page 97. I said, Andrew is such a dick for this. Like, what's your problem, man? And how much planning did that take?
To break in Neil's
stuff?
stuff?
I thought that was for something else, because now that I've seen all this from Andrew, it's like, that was barely anything for him. Like, I'm like, how much planning did that take? That took 2 seconds of planning for Andrew.
Yeah.
He's a genius.
I think the whole point of Neil running into Nikki in the hallway is so that Nikki can go back to the room and be like, hey, I just saw Neil leave. And Andrew's like, gotta go.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
BRB, don't mind me. Just going on a little walk. A little walk around the Fox Tower.
Just gonna look at some things, look at some sights.
Yeah. Because later we learn that the others don't know about the binder. Andrew did this alone.
Oh, okay, nice. That makes sense.
If I'm recalling correctly.
I think you're right.
So I think Andrew was like, be right back, don't follow me.
Nice.
And went and broke into Neil's stuff.
That's so funny. I'm imagining them just like sitting in their room, clearly able to hear the lock-picking sounds, and they're just like, whatever, it's his problem.
Uh-huh.
But no, yeah, I think you're right that he does not tell them, and they don't seem to know that he did it. Which actually makes it so much funnier for Neil to burst in, and Andrew's the only one who knows why he's there.
Maybe he told Kevin that he was gonna go break in.
Okay.
But maybe not. I guess I don't know.
I guess Kevin might have a little... Has Kevin recognized Neil at this point?
No.
Okay, no.
No, he doesn't until book 2.
Okay, nice. So yeah, Kevin has zero information.
Kevin's so clueless about Neil.
Yeah.
But Andrew knows that something's up. Andrew's whole thing is that he doesn't like the way that Neil is looking at Kevin. Andrew is suspicious of Neil because he's trying to protect Kevin. He thinks Neil is some kind of like mole for the Ravens and that he's coming here to hurt Kevin. So Andrew is breaking into Neil's stuff to figure out what the deal is. And the fact that he's got a stalker binder for Rico and Kevin and a bunch of cash is not helping Neil beat the hired killer allegations.
I completely forgot that this is why Andrew's doing this. I was just like, sure, he's an asshole. He does this to everybody. But you're right. He's specifically looking for this. And now that he's seen this, he's like, there's something going on here.
Yeah, and in the next chapter, I think, is when Andrew's like, we're taking you to Columbia, which is his way of like finding out about people.
We're gonna give you a gay kiss and set you loose in a nightclub, and it's gonna be just like every other queer teenager's first night at college.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Okay, so next chapter, chapter 6, is when Allison and Seth show up, so we meet the rest of the team, and Wymack announces the Ravens district change, and then the chapter after that is them going to Columbia.
Nice.
Which is going to be a wild ride. Can't wait.
Cannot wait, truly.
Well, that was chapter 5.
Yeah, it's been real.
It's been real. Let us know your thoughts on chapter 5, or look ahead and give us your thoughts on chapter 6 or 7, or pretty much anything.
Go crazy with it.
You can find us on social media. We are the Foxhole Cast on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find all these links and more at thefoxholecast.card.co. Until next time.
Thanks for listening.
You are amazing.